Hello and welcome to the Gooners podcast. Mike, we've actually done 2 pods in the year 2020.
That was pretty funky introduction from you.
Why?
You're like, what are you, Casey Kasem? This is our top 40.
It would be great if you did a DJ voice for the whole pod.
Yeah,
like you go to a bad wedding and the person talks normal and then they get a microphone and they're like, no.
Well, that's what your voice normally sounds like. You have a voice made for, what was it?
Media.
Today, we have joining with us 2 people, one of whom is in traction or some sort of having surgery or something with their ankle, and they're gonna come straight here afterwards. But we are pleased to welcome back to the podcast a Gooner who puts her heart and soul into this club, into organizing, promoting, leading the efforts of Arsenal America, and her Twitter handle has probably resulted in upwards of 2,000 pervy men coming on to you, I would assume. It's Nola Arsgal. It's Tiffany Campo of the crew of Arsenal. Welcome back to the pod.
Hi there. And I don't need the Twitter handle for that.
Yes, well, that's true. Well put. So if you attended this year's Arsenal Summer Tour, if you went to any of the Arsenal America events in each of the cities, chances are Tiffany had a hand in planning it, organizing it, putting it together, and I'd love to kind of generically hear how that was for you. But I would say, like most overseas Arsenal fans, people who are a little distant from the club from a distance perspective, we kind of struggle with a feeling of being disconnected, and like it's this big thing that we watch on TV or sometimes get to go to, and we support it and we live and die. But Andy and I have gotten this experience as well, but we know that you've been working directly with the club on setting up events, and that's got to be kind of surreal, I guess, in a way. Is it good? Does it kind of ruin it when they pull back the curtain and it's just a bunch of people who don't give you information till the day before? Like, how has that been for you?
No, actually, I would say that our travel and supporter liaison group at the club is incredibly nice. We have some really good people there, and they were instrumental in helping me get some things done. There was a lot of times that I had worked well ahead of where they were and was sort of like pulling for information. But if they couldn't give it to me, then they put me in touch with the people who could, for the most part. So,
and now if you need something if you want to be on the pitch for at Emirates for the opening kickoff, if you want to be the referee, you're the person to talk to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah, that's, I definitely recommend coming to me for all of your, if you want to play like left back last week, just, let me know.
Yeah, that's true. We do need that.
Right.
Speaking of playing for Arsenal, I got to say, before we get into the games, before we get into talking about Gooner Gras, which is coming up.
Fredo's still with hair and makeup.
Fredo will be here. He has a blemish on his face, and we have our people really working on putting foundation on and all that stuff. Becca is excited to see somebody other than the 2 of our faces here.
Hi, Becca and Russ.
So, speaking of playing for Arsenal, and it's appropriate because this is called hot teenage action. But about a month ago, we were joined by somebody that Andy likes to claim he inspired into playing football. Tiffany, he takes credit for this. Young whippersnapper, midfielder stud, Cole Bassett from right near Andy's hood in Colorado. And if you haven't checked it out yet, check out the interview we did with Cole. It's just a really well put together, mature, humble kid of 18 who just spent 2 weeks trying out and doing a trial with Arsenal. But when we spoke to him, he just finished the trial. He was told by the club he was the best 18-year-old they'd ever seen in person, right, Andy? Is that what he said?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they'd never seen anyone like him. And Arsene Wenger had cappuccino with his mom and almost signed him, which is called pulling a Ronaldo and a Mbappe. So what did he just do during his MLS offseason now that he's been on the pod, Andy?
I think we rejuvenized his career because didn't he – was it under 20 or under 23?
Under 20, U.S. men's national team.
Under 20 U.S. national team, 2 goals, ended the game as captain. I don't think he started as captain, though.
No, but he played so well during the game that they didn't sub out the captain. They just ripped the armband off the captain. you're going to be the captain now going forward. Another 2-0 against against Justin's favorite team, Mexico, and so Cole's his star is rising, and we have 10% of him.
Yes,
it's going to be amazing. Tiffany, we're going to be buying drinks at Gooner Gras because when he cashes in on his contract, we're going to make it rain.
I will hold you to that.
Yes, we'll have to talk about that. Another thing, Andy's been on the move lately, and I told him that we were originally supposed to do this podcast on Sunday night. I said, Andy, you're doing too much. You're going to get sick.
He did send this to me in a text.
You need to rest more. You're not used to all this gallivanting, and yeah. So he was in Austin for 2 days. He came back all sick.
I did 4 days.
How are the Austin Gooners? They're a well-traveling group. We love
a lot of smokers,
gentlemen.
Really?
A lot of smokers.
Texas.
Yeah, they all had guns.
Stop.
No. You've never been to Texas before.
Mike knows that I don't really like meeting new people to begin with. So me having to meet new people on 3 hours of sleep and still pretty hungover and or drunk
from a bachelor party
with a group of people that I don't really know anyway from the bachelor party. For the couple people I did meet, I was happy to have met them, and they super, super nice. But I wasn't as outgoing as I should have been. Yeah,
and apparently you cursed my name every opportunity you got, even though I was simultaneously texting people who I knew were there, offering to buy a drink.
But I would just say, "Do you know Mike Feinberg?" Asshole, and then I'd walk away.
Actually, you wore a T-shirt that was just
and then I kept seeing,
with a line drawn through it.
I kept seeing like stickers that Paunchy's made and put up everywhere.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
Is it the ones of him superimposing his face over something?
No, it just said like
no Paunchy, no party.
No Paunchy, no party. No party. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, those have made their way all over the place. Yeah. So when Fredo gets here, I'll see if I can dig up his introduction as well. But let's move on to the last couple games, because even with underwhelming results that aren't exactly shooting us up the table, I think we're starting to learn a lot more about this club in the last month than we have in the last 6 months or so, about the players, about the coaches, and stuff that we can only hope that we can build on as we go forward. So a couple of statistics first. So far this season, we have 18 draws in all competitions, 7 1-1 draws, 7 Desmonds, a 5-5, a couple 3-3s. I mean, it's ridiculous, but 12 of them in the Premier League. The all-time record is 17, so we got 14 games left to get 6 draws. I mean, I think we can do this, and I can't be more excited. We have to win the draw title. And secondly, the league table is important. Of course it's important, but has to do with stuff apparently. But I like to honor the most points won from losing positions Premier League table. And when they put that thing on TV yesterday, Wolves have 18 points from losing positions, but we have 12. And that's good for second place in the table. So fuck the Europa League, the Premier League. We start each game by giving up a goal.
I think we could win that Champions League.
I do. I think
if they made one.
If they gave European spots away for fair play like they used to, I think this definitely would get us back into Europe. So we need to win this. So I made a comment about a month or so ago, maybe 2 months ago, about how if you just took the Arsenal first team and ranked the players from oldest to youngest and drew a line at age 25 right now, which is the average age of the club, I wouldn't argue with you if you wanted to remove any player from the above 25. I mean, Abba, and not including goaltenders. Abba, maybe. But at this point, anyone who's over 25, I'm not going to mourn for. But the under 25 list, Chambers, Bellerin, Pepe, Torreira, Tierney, Mainsley, Guendouzi, Willock, Martinelli, and Saka. I mean, that's starting to become the not just the future of the club, but the present of the club. And the performance and the work rate and the excitement and kind of the willingness to do anything asked of them, the 2 youngest players are the ones who are really the topic of conversation today, the hot teenage action, if you will. So who am I talking about? 18-year-old Gabby Martinelli. Do you know his full name? Does anyone know his full name off the bat?
He's Brazilian, so I'm assuming it's like 4 names.
Yes, Tiffany, it's Gabriel Teodoro Martinelli Silva. The tougher one is, does anyone know Saka's full name?
Saka.
It's more complicated than
We went
that.
the other Brazilian route where he just has one name.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would probably be advised on shortening it because his full name, and most people don't know this, Wikipedia didn't even have it. It's Bukayo Arnold Saka Goldstein Lipschitz.
Stop it right now.
So he's an English Jew.
It's a little known fact. He's well, I mean, an English Jew, like that's a rarity.
So his parents work in the diamond industry.
Jeez, let's just make a bunch of stereotypical comments.
Sorry,
are you going to slag off Mexicans in this one as well?
Is Fernandez in the
yeah, we'll post a link to a few pods ago when Andy did slag off Mexicans. So yeah, that's a little known fact about his name. But how much are these teenage boys turning you on right now, Andy?
It's exciting, but we were making the jokes yesterday that Martinelli's going to be the next, Messi, and I think that at Arsenal we've kind of gotten our hands bit off with the Walcott type of players, Iwobi, where you see like flashes. There's something special about both of these players, but I don't want to jump on a bandwagon just yet. I think that it sucks that we're kind of relying on them in two major positions and that the board aren't saying like, hey, maybe we should bring in cover. And obviously injuries are just what they are, but it's exciting. It's exciting. I mean, to have Martinelli, who we got to meet, shake his hand, no big deal. I don't think he spoke any English to us, but
again, that's I spoke fluent Portuguese to him, and I said in Portuguese, "Good luck making the team."
You did.
That was my comment.
It's exciting. It's really exciting.
And while you're shaking your head and rolling your eyes at my perverted comments about teenage boys, I do want your feedback on these guys, and I won't ask how they're making you feel, but from an Arsenal perspective, I mean, I tend to overdo things a little bit, as you've seen, but when it comes to
I didn't expect anything less than that title for this segment. So
yeah, I mean, a Ballon d'Or winning duo like that, how do you feel? I mean, are these guys legit, or are we just seeing that kind of initial Arsenal burst and then you see them revert to the mean, as we've seen so many times with impressive young players?
So I feel like I'm with Andy on this, and that I'm very excited about them, but I was also at the Emirates when Sanogo scored 4 goals. So, there was a time with our current midfield that I was extremely excited about a couple of the partnerships there as well. When Xhaka first came over, there were a couple of coordinations that worked really well for him. And so I don't know. I feel like that's a lot of pressure to say like, this is the future of our team and this is what's going to happen with this. But when Martinelli took off down the pitch, I had nothing but praise. I'm screaming and, it's like yelling at somebody like they're, on fire or something to get them down to the end. And
it was it's an iconic thing to start early in your career, to not just be good, not just put incredible work rate in and show that you'll put everything on the line for the team, but then to start collecting those moments, those Giroud moments that he started to get towards the end, where it was just like, he's not the best player in the world, but there's nothing that he can't do on any given particular day. To start adding to his legend already, I'd love to see it. And I know he's not listening to me, so I have no problem pushing him as being the next.
Well, when you look at like players like Walcott and Sanogo, as Tiffany mentioned, those players showed like flashes, and you're like, oh, it's there. With Martinelli, like every time he's come on, you're just like, Jesus, like he goes a next level. And like we talked about it a while ago, I think towards the summer, like he was included in that Copa America squad, not to make it, just because Brazil know, and they wanted to say to him, like, this is your future, right? And so if you're a part of the Brazilian Federation, you don't probably do that to every kid. And now there's rumors that he might come out and go different nationality, and I'm sure that was part of Brazil's plan, but
he's got an Italian father, right?
Right. So there's a lot. I think there's a lot of positive praise for this kid, and I don't think the Brazilian Federation would bring in a 17-year-old at the time and say, hey, come train with this first team for 2 weeks just to see what it's like, because like we know we have something special. But as Tiffany said, we've seen this and we've been here before, and so it's kind of like you almost want the media and the fans just to stop and just give the kid time.
I think I'm kind of trying to be careful as well about like fitting him into a box at this point because it's so fresh. Like I was absolutely certain that Torreira was going to be the next Cazorla, and I think he still could be, but I'm not seeing the little wizard on the pitch every week yet. You know what I mean? So when I think of like who I want Martinelli to be, there's several that jump to mind, but really in doing his own thing and in having a coach that's going to develop that, I think he could be great. He's good. I think he could be great.
So let's talk about him a little bit more. Andy, when we first saw him in Denver, I believe you were wearing sweatpants. And
you were wearing a fucking suit. I remember that.
That was probably a mistake on your part. Idiot. So one of us looked good when we were interviewing Josh Kroenke, and the other one had a big boner that everyone could see from Martinelli. There
were two things that happened in Denver that I thought was like two things. Like I always joke that you're the fourth smartest person I know, because I know it makes you angry that you're not number one. But Tiffany, he did two things, right? The first one is we show up to the stadium the day before the game. Media passes.
I have no common sense. I'm ready to admit.
He goes, I should take off my Arsenal t-shirt because they're going to know we're fans. And I was like, dude, we have a podcast named the Gooners Pod that we've like, they know who it is. And then he goes, I think we should dress up like business casual. And I was like, dude, you're in Denver. Like, I'm going to wear a polo and just chill. And he went full suit wanker. And
I didn't have like a sport coat or anything.
You took the vest off, to be fair.
Took the vest off.
He's dressing for a funeral to talk to the Kroenkes.
We should have talked about this while we were having our pedicures the day before and come up with some sort of
always
alignment.
Coordinate your outfits.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Always.
At least we got the same color toenails. So, I mean, can you? I don't know if when he was brought in originally for £5 million, and same was true with Guendouzi last year. I don't know if they were brought in to really be contributing this season or whether they were one for the future or not. But, I mean, at this point, and we really have this question to ask because Aubameyang's red card suspension, obviously the silver lining is that they're really kind of forced Martinelli into the lineup and he's producing. Can you take him out when Alba comes back in? And I asked this question on YouTube. I didn't do a poll. I mean, I did on Twitter. I was just like, do you take Martinelli out to make room for Aubameyang? Do you take Lacazette out? And it was pretty much 50-50. You take Lacazette out or you take Ozil out, which wasn't one of the options. And not a single person, I think maybe one, said you got to have Martinelli make way for him. But, I mean, Tiffany, can you it's next Sunday, a week from Sunday against Burnley. What does your front four look like when you have everybody available for selection? Front four, front five.
Holy!
I mean,
God.
Is Martinelli one of the first names?
Yeah. Oh, he's in. He's in.
Here, while Tiffany thinks about it, you know who I drop? Because
can I choose people from other teams?
Shit. Pepe. See ya.
So you're off to give him more time bandwagon then, Andy?
Yeah. The guy's fucking one touch is awful. Every time he pushes the ball away from him, it's 10 yards away.
I missed who you said. Mustafi, I'm assuming?
No. Yeah. So, yeah, I would say, hey, if we're going to sacrifice a lamb here, it's got to be Pepe. I mean, the guy literally, okay, United, he had a good game. Outside of that, like, what did he do at Chelsea that made us a threat going forward? He's supposed to be part of the team that gets the ball forward so Lacazette has chances to get open. He didn't fucking do anything. Put Martinelli on that other side.
I don't know. I'm as quick as I am to jump on people's bandwagon, I tend to be fairly slow to jump off.
But, like, if we're talking about who should be playing based off of form, you drop Pepe and you throw Martinelli over there. Lacazette, maybe, but we all know strikers go ebb and flow. And when he starts smashing them in, great. But Ozil's the easy one to scapegoat and move out of there. And sure, if you have another number 10 that can jump in and be that creative force. And let's be fair, like Ozil didn't get into the Chelsea match, but he's played pretty well under Arteta, I think. So if I'm looking at the last couple matches, I'm saying Pepe out, Martinelli in. Okay,
fair enough. And
I would agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard on recent form. It's hard not to agree with that. I think we have to, at this point, with Pepe spending so much time out of favor under Emery towards the end, and finally getting himself back into a phase of playing, 70 to 90 minutes every game. I think we just got to kind of play that out. And with the number of two game a week type situations that start cropping up again in the next couple of weeks, I might give Lacazette a break and let Aubameyang take over for him, or not taking Martinelli out. But the second poll I did about Gabby Martinelli is, who is the greatest Brazilian footballer of all time? It was a tough, close fight, but Martinelli narrowly defeated Pele, Neymar, and Ronaldinho by claiming 84% of the vote. So nothing like Arsenal fans with a poll on Twitter. So Sheffield United was the old familiar story of playing down to the level of our opponent, breaking through for a lead, then never putting the stupid team away and giving up a late equalizer, just 2 drop points. We're far from the finished article right now. We know that. But this was like a sucker punch. I really thought that we were going to win that game. I felt completely optimistic about it. And really coming away from it, the only thing that we had to really laud or celebrate was the play of our 2 teenage starlets that we're talking about. So other than the VAR situation and Mike Dean and him like doing another heel turn and turning into a complete ass, anything you guys want to cover from the Sheffield United game before we move on to Chelsea? Andy, Tiff?
I completely forgot we had played them.
Well, I believe you were dazed and confused walking around Austin for that game. But Tiffany, obviously if they give that penalty and Pepe slots home the penalty, who knows whether he would have been taking it or not? Are we feeling the same way about Pepe? Has Mike Dean ruined Pepe for you? Because that VAR decision.
I don't let Mike Dean ruin anything for me. I expect Mike Dean to Mike Dean.
Mike Dean is a verb.
Pepe, it's the consistency lately and the fact that, even under new management, it's not, he's still kind of playing the same, I feel like. So I would definitely like to see him grow from what he was doing prior and into what his game hasn't changed. So I just think in favor of Aubameyang, Lacazette, Martinelli, I would absolutely give that a run. And I don't mean that in Mike's way. Saw the twitch of the mouth. But
I was getting ready.
I will say this, right? In a small defense of Pepe, like he has been playing with a right back who's not a right back. So his instruction might be sit deep. When he gets Bellerin behind him and Bellerin is fully healthy and we're not playing a team like Chelsea who have Willian where we have to like be cautious of that counterattack, when we can have the 2 of them light up, then I'm sure we're going to see a different Pepe because he's going to have a speed demon running around him as well. So to that defense, we probably haven't seen the best out of him because he hasn't been playing with an out-and-out right back, or an attacking wing back. So it will be different to see.
Yeah.
The Mike Dean stats, I don't know if they were made up, but if they are accurate.
I'm pretty sure the one about the penalties.
That's fucking ridiculous. And how the football administration isn't looking at those and saying, well, hold on a second, there's a huge disparity here.
What was the stat? Like in the past, out of like 40, like 400?
I'm not even looking at the penalties. I was looking at the win ratio.
Oh.
It was like all the other, it was like what, Chelsea, United, and someone else, I forget, maybe Liverpool, it was like 30-something%, and ours was a 5% win ratio under Mike Dean. I mean, that is ridiculous.
I saw something that like it was out of some number of games that he had pretty equally refereed amongst the top 6 teams. there were like 40 some odd penalties that have been called. I mean, out of hundreds of games, 40 penalties for City and for Chelsea, and then 5 for Arsenal. Like, it was so absurdly ridiculous that. But yeah, I ever since there was an Arsenal Tottenham game, I guess a few years ago, where we beat them. I think one of our goals might have been offside. That was right after the November international break, and Dean was the referee. And from that point on, I started looking at things, and I'm like, he is by far not the guy who seems most. I mean, he's a douche. He's prancing around, treating Tottenham like they're Tranmere, his favorite team. I mean, I don't like the guy, but I certainly have jumped off the bandwagon that he's dirty and hates Arsenal. I'm back on now. Let's just put it that way, because I don't ever want to see him on the pitch again. I don't care what the actual statistics are, but it was a drop couple points. VAR was supposed to save those things from happening, and of course it doesn't for us. But enough whining, and let's move on to Chelsea. What a game that was! For a game, we got 2 shots on goal for the entire game. Our friend and Mexican Andy, Justin Trujillo, since that's how you always announce him, as Mexican Justin, said that was the best draw of the season, and we have a ton of them to choose from. So for that to be the best draw, nothing ever happens that's boring when it involves Mustafi, and we have to talk about this.
We have to change that, because when I was talking to Mr. Trujillo, his dad,
yes,
they actually came from Spain. So there's no.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you get 23andMe proof of that?
No, I trust Zeke. Zeke's probably the most trustworthy of the Trujillos. So
he's more trustworthy than his son, who's your friend. All right. Well, enough about that. But we don't define people by where they're from.
We don't.
Although I literally just did that.
You did.
Okay. So let's talk about Mustafi then. That German. No, I'm just kidding.
Trujillo is listening right now, by the way.
His ball sack, first of all, kept us in the game.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you got to give him props for putting his body on the line, intentionally or unintentionally.
I'm really glad he already has kids.
Yeah, and Andy talked to him about his kids.
They're doing well. They're trouble sleeping, but they're doing well.
Yeah, well, it happens. It's all that sugar cereal.
We had such great questions for the players this
That was another thing. Mike shows up to the game with a fucking binder of questions.
This is the Denver
player.
Game.
And as Mustafi's walking to us, Mike was like nervous, and I'm like, just get the questions ready. And he's like looking through, and he goes, I didn't write any for him. He's the only player I didn't write any for.
I wrote like 16 questions, because I'm imagining as these players walk off the pitch in Denver, we're gonna have like 20 minutes with each player. We're gonna talk to them about, and it ended up with Andy saying how the kids, are you tired, to Mustafi, me telling Willock I hope he makes the team, which wasn't what I meant to say. I was like, good luck as a first teamer. And then basically us shouting at players as they got on the bus to find out whether they like pepperoni on their pizza or not pepperoni.
Pineapple.
I can't even bring myself to say it. Pineapple on pizza. Yeah. So yeah.
Yes, I do.
That and see, Andy, are you going to yell at her?
I'm not yelling at anyone. I think we've all come to the agreement now that the argument is kiwi on pizza.
Oh, no. That's not.
Yeah.
Drawing a line.
And I think the general consensus is that's fucked up.
Yeah.
Mike, I'm a big man to admit, after I actually tried it, it wasn't terrible. Thanks.
I'm not going out of my way to have it, but
no, I'm not. I appreciate Ziegler for opening my eyes to a new world.
Said nobody ever. All right, so again, you guys keep trying to take me away from Mustafi's ball sack, but okay, look, he made a good save. Some players are known for having an incredible left foot, for being really good in their, in the air with their head, but he has the most, dynamic, effective scrotum in the game, but that is it. After this game, 32 Turkish clubs apparently called after the game, and they were like, no, thank you. Literally 5 minutes before. Now, for our viewers, I'm sure half of you. I mean, I see a good mix of people from over the pond and from the U.S. Lee Dixon on the U.S. broadcast, and Andy, you probably didn't hear this because you were in a loud pub with people with guns and smoking. But 5 minutes before his little blunder, he says Chelsea's counter to Arsenal trying to play out from the back was that they were pretty much just trying to lock down everybody else and force Mustafi to have the ball at his feet because of how uncomfortable he looked with it.
No, I think he said if he was the manager, that would have been his tactics, is to just go after Mustafi.
Okay, that
makes 100% like that makes sense, right? When we all know what he's capable of, and he did it.
And sure enough, 5 minutes later, I mean, he didn't say that in response to Mustafi's issue. He said that in advance of Mustafi.
He said it in response to dude passing the ball to people in blue more often than he passed to people in red for a good 7-minute spell. And then 2 seconds later, commentator curse.
Yeah.
He couldn't. Yeah. He literally passed it to another player in blue.
Yeah, and backwards as well. So horrific moment in the first half, and at that point the game pretty much just looks done and dusted with a man down less than half an hour in. Quick roundtable here, Tiffany. Was there an attempt by Luis to play the ball? Do you blame him for the red card that he got, or was he just kind of put in a no-win situation, making up for Mustafi's error?
Absolutely making up for Mustafi's error. Absolutely making up for Mustafi's error. Like, if you're in that position, you throw yourself at the flame. I mean, that was it. They were most likely going to score. I don't want to say that Leno wouldn't, have defended, but.
Well, Leno was off his line. Leno was out of the picture by that point, which I think is why Luis.
No, but I'm saying Luis could have essentially deflected things in a situation that could have given Leno time to get back there. I mean, other things could have happened, but
yeah. I mean,
it never should have in the first place. I don't even know what the fuck that back pass was. I can do better than that in heels.
Even if you had a bruised scrotum, because there's no question there might have been some afters and some lingering effect. I'm not defending the guy, but look, I mean.
Okay, but if you can't do your job, then do you maybe let your coach know so you can be subbed? I mean, Nobody wants to admit that they can't be on the pitch, right? But,
the bruised scrotum had nothing to do with it, Mike.
I know. I'm not trying to feed him excuses. That the scrotum.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot for a second, and I thought his nickname was now Bruised Scrotum.
Oh no, it is. I have number 20. There's the bruised banana and the bruised scrotum. And
actually, Mustafi translated from German is bruised scrotum. So
gotcha, makes sense.
Andy, he actually got back and was kind of almost, I guess, on the goal line to try to salvage the situation. I'm not sure Luis knew that. But was he playing the ball or not? Because it's also an argument about whether it should have been a red card or not, and it all comes down to whether he was making an attempt at playing the ball.
So if you're a center back and you know and you're aware of that rule, right? Everyone is aware of that rule. So for me, Luis has two, obviously hindsight's 20/20, but Luis could have just let him score the goal. And we were down 1-0 anyway after the penalty. So I truly have to think that Luis was trying to play the ball.
Because I think he was trying to play the ball, but I mean,
does Abraham sell it a little bit? Absolutely, he does. But I think it's so weird that VAR or the referee are making that decision whether or not he was playing the ball. Because the only person who knows that, it's not like he went in and tripped, dude. Like, he tried to lunge for the ball. So in my opinion, he's trying.
He didn't win it. He didn't win it, and there's no rule that you have to get your foot on the ball.
He's making the motion for it, right? Like, we give fouls away, we give penalties away because you were making the motion of fouling the player. He was making the motion and directing his efforts into winning the ball, in which he took Abraham down. So I think fairly, he should have been given a yellow, and it's a penalty, right? We're not arguing if it's a penalty. We're debating if he's going for the ball. I think he was.
Yeah, and there's a misconception out there that there's been a rule that outlawed the double jeopardy thing. It hasn't. It's just it's made it like you can get a red card if you use your hand, like we saw in a game last week in a different game. If there's violent conduct, but also if you're adjudged not to have been making a play on the ball, and that's where I'm not so sure that it should have been a red. But
listen, there's a thing called professional foul, right? And the professional foul is where you openly take the player with no hesitation that you're not getting the ball. Everyone knows
what Guendouzi did a few.
Everyone knows it's an automatic yellow, and you're stopping the play, right? In that instance, he was battling for the ball, and so I think again VAR got it wrong. If Dean ran, was it Dean? No, that was Sheffield. If the official ran over and gave him a red, and they overturned it, you could see it, right? But for me, it's hard to just determine whether or not, like, he wasn't not playing the ball. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, he was trying to go for the ball. But as Tiffany said, there were probably different things he could have done. He could have cut the angle. He could have just slid forward. Hey, I was about to say, I don't know how many times the second most trustworthy Trujillo and I have said to the girls, when in doubt, kick it out.
And I love this because there's
every fucking age, doesn't matter if you're professional, doesn't matter if you're a 15-year-old girl that we coached for years and years, in defense, when in doubt, kick it out and reset. It's fucking simple. And Mustafi should have done that. He should have seen the back pass. It's just, he's an awful football player. And how he keeps, the only reason I think he was on the pitch is because Rob Holding's injury is probably still as severe as we're thinking. Right.
Yeah. And I put this up here because you made a little offhand comment that said that we coach. I think without that, the cops are on their way to your house. I mean, that you and Justin share 15-year-old girls and berate them. I'm like, I think he needs to start saying like that I coach, so that it's a little more clear because.
It's only the only person that
not everybody just has
perversion is you.
I'm sorry. Are you policing that, Mike? You're policing the
this is
terminology
the guy policing the guy who showed up hungover to watch these girls play with a box of donuts and a Gatorade.
The one who I'm presuming titled this hot teenage action.
It was not a Gatorade. It was a Diet Coke.
It was a Gatorade.
Fredo's in the hizzle.
What did I just walk in on? Hot teenage action.
Hey, Fredo.
Fredo knows Justin, and without further explanation, does this make you question what they're up to in their free time?
It's making me question just about everything I know about it. Not surprised.
It's probably a good time to join us. Anyway, it's pretty much been like this, but
my apologies. I was coming out of physical therapy, so
weak ankles.
Yeah, well, no. I sprained a ligament. I did a slide tackle a la Mustafi. Next thing you know, did my ankle.
Fredo was at physical therapy. So let's reintroduce Fredo as a frequent member of our chat. Former a couple of times on the podcast. We dig him. He's our buddy. He's cuddly. He's a gooner. Andy, he's a spooner. Have you guys ever spooned in person? Have you met in person yet?
I don't think Fredo and I have met. He's one of the small group of people I've been texting with for years and not met.
Well, we need to fix that, and no better time.
Well, like I said, I sent the family calendar to Fredo, and he said Gooner Gras will be the weekend Andy's in Cabo out of spite.
So, Fredo, quick update. Something that's changed since you last joined us is that you have a new title, that of podcaster.
Oh God!
We have to unpack this. So, what led you to podcasting? I have a thought. Imagine that your inspiration. And who was your inspiration? And you can't name the following people: Andrew Mangan, James, Elliot, Joe Rogan, Adam Carolla, Men in Blazers, Danny, or anyone else that's not me or Andy. So between the two of us, basically, who's your inspiration? What led you to?
It's the kind of thing that kind of happens when you've had so many podcasters and podcasting legends like Joey Murphy. Back in his old podcasting days,
you start looking around and realize that there's less people who don't have a podcast than who do. Basically,
at this point, I think I was the only, me and maybe a few other people are like the only ones that don't podcast. So I was like, why not? Now, a couple of friends just asked me, would you like? I said, sure, and been fun so far.
So I know the answer to this already, but is it Arsenal related or is it what I like to generously call nerd shit?
It is.
And I know I'm not making any friends with Tiffany by that, but what is this about?
100% nerd shit. It is a Star Wars podcast. Well, it's mostly Star Wars, but because we started with The Mandalorian when that came out last year. Now we've spent the last few weeks, breaking down Rise of Skywalker. Now we're gonna probably get into other nerd shit because hey, there's no.
Only talk about The Mandalorian for so long, I would imagine.
Hey, you can devote an hour to anything if you're really committed.
Spoilers.
What'd you say, Andy?
I said I'm only 3 episodes in, no spoilers. I love how I'm calling this nerd shit when $500 to be front row of the WWE, and then when we make fun of him, it's for Jake. When I bet if we asked Jake, he'd be like, "I don't want to go to these events."
He didn't even go the last time I was with Rob.
Did you go with Rob?
I did. You're ignoring though the big difference between the two. The WWE is real. Okay, it's real to me. Damn it! All right. So
here's what I know, Andy. Only one person has asked me to see if Finns would put a WWE pay-per-view event live at the pub. One person's ever asked me that. And
I can't believe Lourdes did that to you.
Yeah.
Fredo, what's your pod called?
The Huda Jedi podcast. So we talked a little bit Star Wars, a little bit New Orleans. Like this week, we're actually going to interview a couple of people from Chewbacca. So, nerd stuff.
Thank you, Tiffany, for I had completely forgotten to ask him that, and it's only I would have done that at the end, but hey, let's get that out there. Because the more we talk about WWE, that listener drop is gonna start happening. So
your guest drop will start happening too.
Yes,
your co-host drop will.
So Fredo, let's talk about our So we've talked about our young guns. We've talked about Sheffield. We're right in the middle of talking about Chelsea, and I think we had gotten to the just to bring us up to date. We had talked about the Mustafi. Let's call it a boner, for lack of a better word. Let's give a shout out. Let's give a shout out to the chat. We've got Dial Square, Thunder Roads back with us. Good old Russ joining us from the beginning this time, staying up much later than his age would normally warrant.
Hi, Becca.
Over the pond. We got Nikki Wilson with us, Peter Colson, the lovely Becca, the lovely Michael Hernandez. Let's say we got Justin Trujillo in the chat, Mass Gunner, always good to see you. Joey Murphy popped in. I'm not sure if he's still around, but in any case, always good to see some of those regular faces and some new ones as well. So after the Mustafi era, have you ever noticed that just when things seem like they're absolute worst with Arsenal, when you just can't imagine it getting any worse and it looks like it's about to head further downhill, sometimes it ends up being a little bit of a galvanizing moment. And maybe that's what happened there, because an interesting moment in response to that, at the end of the first half, it seems like he's pretty much ready to bring in Rob Holding for either Pepe or Martinelli at that point. There was some debate about who was going to be exactly, which kind of leads towards damage control at this point. But instead, he holds off, and a little bit of solidification occurs with his stopgap of plugging Xhaka back at center half. So before I go to Andy for the Xhaka comments, Fredo, is that is this an Arteta specific thing? Was it just dumb luck? Did the stoppages in play not really allow the sub, and then all of a sudden became obvious? I mean, what's your take on the change of mind?
I think sometimes you get lucky that way. Sometimes, it happened to Arsene. It's happened to other managers where you're adamant, okay, I got to make this sub, because that's kind of like what the playbook tells you. It's you lost the center half, bring a new one in. That's what you got to do. You sacrifice a wide forward for more solidity in the middle. And lucky for him, it wasn't necessary, because he was able to drop Saka into center defense and not really lose too much of the attacking, or you just got lucky. And sometimes that'll happen. Those are the breaks you do kind of get during a match. It's sometimes you're like, oh, this is the guy we got to pull, and 2 minutes before they yank him, he scores a goal.
Well, obviously it worked out brilliantly, whether it was conceived that way or not. Xhaka drops back to the back line. We've all kind of complained that when he's playing too far back in a defensive position, he's being played out of position. We've seen him play left back before in a pinch. Now he's at center back. Andy, this is your moment because we all know Andy's love affair with Granit Xhaka. He's defended him. We've gone at it. We broke up and got remarried a couple times over it. Not because of his play, but because of the other stuff. But you can't really say anything negative about Xhaka, so let's hear you say a bunch of positive stuff.
Listen, I think moving him back and then the tactic, it was the realignment or lack thereof by Arteta was genius. And I think, as Fredo said, there was a little bit of luck in there because we had to pull Holding off of the bench and they don't want to rush him back on the pitch. So they needed him to get warmed up. And then I think the momentum of play actually fell into Arsenal's favor a little bit. And then you had halftime on it. So I think there was almost like this. I think it was genius for Arteta not to rush it because we did start waking up at that point. And then I think going into the second half, he probably had a one-on-one with Xhaka and said to him, like, we're going to keep you there, and said to Ozil, hey, if in 10 minutes we're not finding ourselves, I'm going to yank you and we're going to do this realignment and this adjustment. And that was even with Guendouzi, right? We didn't see Holding get subbed on for a while. Listen, Xhaka was out of the club, and Arteta convinced him to stay. Whether or not you're pro or anti-Xhaka with the whole shit that happened, that has to be water under the bridge now. Because since he's come back, he has been absolutely brilliant. And yesterday, not only did he take that position of center back, and right now, arguably the best center back at our club, based off of how he played yesterday, the amount of leadership he brought to the team during that match yesterday. I feel like if you go back and you rewatch it, every time there was a dead ball or shit needed to be figured out, he was the voice being yelled. And, you know, we have to move on now past this whole thing. He is arguably becoming one of our better players, and we've always said it. Like, Canton and I have been singing this all along. The best Xhaka is when he gets to be central and he has a player behind him. And Tiffany mentioned it before, there's going to be a lot of combinations where we see Xhaka at his best. Torreira behind him is one of those combinations.
It's exactly the one I was talking about.
Right. Yesterday, he was absolutely ridiculous. Like, I think it was Hicks who texted me and like, did he just slide tackle with his head to stop the ball from going? And it's like
that's called the Phil Jones.
Commitment. So, Mike, you know, you had said, what does Xhaka need to do to re-win the hearts of Gooners, and this is it. We just need to see him ball. That's it. Simple.
Yeah, you have to speak with your play, and obviously, if there isn't going to be this, and we had a question, and I don't know if you actually read it, Andy. I should have forwarded it to you, but a comment from Glenn, who last week asked you the question about Xhaka, and you know, respectfully disagreed with your answer on it, but. This is the way for him to get back. New coach, new environment, laying his body and his soul down on the line for the team and being successful at it. I mean, and not getting involved or baited into any more of this social media and fan stuff. And so I'm all for redemption stories, and we'll talk about that through some of our questions in a minute. But this was a good step back for Xhaka. Question from Thunder Road, who I believe is over in the UK. What region are the two of you from? I don't know if he's picking up on an accent or not, but what region are you from, guys?
Tiffany?
What would you call that? I mean, it's New Orleans, but what's
I think he's probably looking for New Orleans. If we say Louisiana and he is from overseas, nobody knows where that is.
You know, if he takes geography with Tom Canton, who Andy loves, you know, Canton and I is like your new merch that you're really.
There's only two people I think who've stayed pro Xhaka through this whole thing. It's been Tom and I.
Oh, that's probably true. And this from my good friend Nicky Wilson. I do that meme from what's his name from Revenge of the Nerds when he does that. I love Ogre. I absolutely love that. But and welcome to Mark Mertz from Green Bay in the house. We'll be getting to your question in a little bit. So yeah, I mean, good summary on Xhaka, and I'm ready to welcome him back. This is one of those things where it doesn't necessarily need to be a watershed. Okay. Water, you know, the water's under the bridge. You do it with your play. You do it with your dedication to the team, and I hope it works out. I mean, we need an effective Xhaka more than we need to just get rid of Xhaka for the sake of getting rid of him. But if we can't have both, you know what we got to do.
Well, and when we were talking about earlier, the most exciting draw of the season, I was also there for the Crystal Palace draw in October, which is coincidentally also the Xhaka match.
The Xhaka game, that's right.
So I think, that was kind of a hard thing to swallow. We went to do the, I can't fucking talk without thinking about how Mike's taking every word I say.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry. We'll get you back into it.
We went to take a picture on the pitch after that entire thing, and it was the most tense I've ever felt in the Emirates. Even just waiting for the photo, and we ended up having some amazing legends come out and take a photo with us because the team were not released for more than an hour after the match. They were being.
Did Stewart? Was he involved in the picture?
No.
Stuart McFarlane? Oh, okay, so no. It was more. Okay, it wasn't like an official picture thing because I know he was pretty impacted by that whole event as well. So I was just wondering whether he was involved.
No, I think he probably took off. This was, we had to wait for like a really long time. And then finally, like Sue Campbell grabbed 3 or 4 of the legends as they were leaving and said, can you please come out and do this? We've got this entire American contingent here. And ordinarily the players come out and take pictures, and it's just not going to happen tonight. So, but it was a real thing. You had people roaming through the halls at the Emirates and leaving and just, pissed at Xhaka. Just, he should never wear the shirt again. And I think to go from a moment like that, that's just embedded in everybody's mind at this point, to have everybody screaming for him this weekend is a huge turning point for him. You can't really diminish that. But he still has to continue to do this. This isn't something like, I'm going to have a great game and everybody's going to forget that they were really super mad at me.
Yeah, if in the next game he pulls,
I was a complete prick,
Yeah, if he pulls a Mustafi and gets some shit, and I mean, it's just gonna. I'm hoping that doesn't happen.
It won't happen because dude's a grown ass man who's learned from it, and we haven't seen him have a bad game under Arteta. I guess we haven't really seen any player have a bad game under him. But we all know what.
We've seen Mustafi have a bad game.
Well, yeah, well, that's just like, that's going to happen under any manager, right? But as we were saying, the best way for Xhaka to turn the table is this. I mean, he's doing it, and he's doing it fucking well, and just keep it up.
Okay, enough said.
But I also think it has a lot to do, given that we weren't playing under Arteta in October. And, we're all sort of reflecting on what the atmosphere was or must have been like in training and in the locker room under different management.
Any good manager would have told him weeks before. You saw this shit fucking boiling up. Like anyone with any common sense would have seen this boiling. They would have known about what was happening socially. They would have, because we all know that these players on social media are watched like hawks. I mean, they have a whole team that study their social media patterns, and they have to like, as an operations, that has to go back to the coaching staff. He had a run of bad games, a ton of mistakes.
And he was supposed to take time off for paternity leave. And
like that, but Mike,
do you fear that you lose your position? Because I know parents feel that all the time, but always, when you're thinking about, like, yes, they have somebody that grooms them for their image, right? And they have these people who watch their social media accounts and stuff like that. And you could see the sort of aggravation building up with him. But is there, and I've said it a million times because I don't know the answer, but is there somebody who's also grooming them for this level of spotlight? For dealing with this kind of pressure every week and for people yelling at them constantly.
No, I mean, hopefully they do now.
Yeah, but you've made that comment. Jessica's made that comment. Jessica from Houston. I mean, I can't argue with that. In fact, Jessica and I had a pleasant disagreement on Twitter in the last couple of days about that. In the overall sense of how much people should prepare and be aligned for the scrutiny and.
But here's the thing, like when we talk about as much as we joke about the leave for having a child,
I don't joke about that.
You see it at Man City all the time.
I
they allow players to miss a match or two, and they give the reason, like they're at home with their wives.
I personally don't joke about that at all. I think but
we were in the past, we were just kind of like, oh, he should have got, but like that's legitimately, I think, a thing. And if you're a player,
and it contributes. It contributes to what you're going through at the time. It's raw. If I am going to defend Xhaka for what happened, it's that.
All right, let's move on. We don't have a lot of time. We've beaten this horse. We want
to talk about Gooner Gras. So, we talked about Martinelli's goal earlier. I mean, we've seen it in the reverse so many times, taking a corner and then picking the ball out of our own net 7 seconds later. Fredo, when he approaches midfield, he had a touch that was so bad and heavy that it actually worked in his favor, because N'Golo Gerrard falls on his ass. And did we not give Theo Walcott 12 years waiting for something like that to happen with him that never came? And Martinelli's done it.
It came. It just came in the Emirates Cup.
Yeah, that's true.
It never came when it mattered.
That's true. But, I mean, Fredo, Tiffany's talked about it. We've talked about the goal already. I mean, is that like the first of many highlights for that man? The
way I look at it, the way I saw it was it just made me think of Thierry Henry running away from defenders, because he was poised. He knew outside of that first touch, which luckily put N'Golo Kante on the ground like John Terry. Besides that, everything he did was, he meant to do. He meant to run at the defense. He meant to take that ball. Even the placement of the shot, he knew where he was going to go. So all of that is instinctual. I mean, we forget he's only, 19 years old. He's gone
18,
up from...
He's not even 18 and a half yet. He's a young 18.
A young 18. He's made the step up from somewhere in the lower levels of Brazilian football. So the fact that he's doing all this at the Premier League level, that he doesn't look out of place doing it, tells you he has a wealth of talent still untapped.
All right, Fredo, one-word answer here, okay? Mm-hmm. Next match, we have everyone up front. Who do you drop going in? Is it Aubameyang, Lacazette, Martinelli, or Pepe?
I would probably drop Pepe.
You're not going to put Ozil in there. All right, well, I've been outnumbered 3-1. I'm dropping Lacazette for the next opportunity. I mean, and it's not the FA Cup game. It's the Burnley game after that. But we'll see what happens, because one of those things is going to happen.
Hey, Burnley just beat Man United, so we need goal scorers.
Oh, yeah. No, we need them out there. We need goal scorers, so let's take out Ozil. Anyway, Hector Bellerin, beautiful comeback, gets the armband. Arjen Bellerin, I like to call him now, because that finish was peak Arjen Robben. And scores his second worldie in 2 years against Chelsea to salvage a 2-2 draw, a.k.a. a Desmond. Just love to see Bellerin come back into the squad with a response like that. I can just hope that he stays healthy. So one more stunning comment about the game. Not stunning comment. My comments are always stunning, but what I mean was stunning support from the away fans yesterday. There are some times where you watch a game, and again, we're just hearing what the television allows us to hear when we're over here in the U.S. There are some games where you can really, really hear it, and yesterday was one of those games from start to finish. Didn't change when we went down one goal. If you've ever been part of an away group supporting Arsenal, it's one of the it can be awful or it can be great depending on how the game goes, but it's a different class. And for all those who were there, we heard you loud and clear. The celebrations for both goals right in front of the away support were just heartwarming to see. And then after the game, we got 5 or 6 minutes of just solid, no commentary, just listening and watching the players and the coaches go over to the away supporters, hearing their names chanted. It was just really kind of like enriching. We haven't had that for a while. Even after wins, after draws, after losses, it seems like 1 or 2 players will go over there. And it's a lot easier to do that after a win, but just feel good stuff. Were you in a position, Tiffany, to hear that, to watch that? I know if you're at the pub, sometimes you just get to talking to people at the pub, but that matters. That builds for the next game.
So I could not at the time. I'm actually emceeing this year's St. Baldrick's event as well, and we had a press event at about the exact same time as the match, and so I was in and out. But I did watch again last night, and I mean, just an incredible atmosphere, and when things are exciting at the Emirates, they're great. But when you've got that concentration of the corner like that, it's you can't beat it.
One of the best in my times of seeing Arsenal at the Emirates was just 2 weeks ago against United. I mean, from start to finish, the supporters were up for that one. But with the Emirates, you never know what you're going to get, and it's hard really to keep that going for an intense group of people. I mean, the away supporters are just by their very nature and the way the point system works. They're the ones who are there day in and day out, not making a judgment of better or worse. Just they're there. They know what is involved, and just I don't need to watch the game over and over again, but I would watch those 5 or 6 minutes after the game over and over again if I'm feeling down about kind of the whole atmosphere around Arsenal. And yes, Style Square, we did hear you. We've talked to some of our mates over there who go home and away, and they said it was probably the best Arsenal atmosphere, even at an away game that they can remember in a few years. So that's great. I do wonder because I made a point to note that the irony, not irony, but the turnaround of them singing Bellerin's name and chanting for him after what I experienced 4 years ago at Selhurst Park, where they weren't yelling at him, but they were certainly yelling to him, "You're not fit to wear the shirt." He was the closest nearby, and it was just like maybe the low point of away support for them to be chanting his name and giddily just praising him and seeing him return it. That felt good. Do we have a sense of whether Xhaka got that treatment as well yesterday? Because that would be interesting.
Well, you have to ask Style Square since he was there. I mean,
Yeah.
Listen, I think if you just go to Twitter today and yesterday and you put in Xhaka's name, there was, I think, a lot of people with the same kind of idea as us as hell. He looked awesome. And if he continues doing that, then there's no problem, right? And so that's all you can ask from a player. And there's no way that they wouldn't chant his name because he's, dude, without we asked for man of the match at the end of the pod. Like, for me, it's got to be Xhaka. Like, Martinelli was great. The goal was awesome. But you're asking a player in the thick of things to switch positions and tactically run the game from a position he's not comfortable in whilst fucking playing next to a fucking deaf and dumb idiot. So you're ultimately the only center back playing because you have Mustafi next to you. And fair credit to Mustafi, I say that. He did have a decent second half. But, do a round table of man of the match because I think it was Xhaka for me.
And I think you could name 4 people.
You could.
But
I think anytime that our that Leno isn't the only obvious choice for man of the match, we're doing something right.
Yeah.
And so would you go with who would you go for man of the match then?
What, yesterday?
Yeah.
No, 6 weeks ago.
Shut the fuck up.
You remember when we played Fiorentina in Charlotte?
Honestly, I would be torn over
Tiffany in 2014.
I'm tempted to say Bellerin. Mostly because, and here's the part where he came back, he had the armband immediately, right? And so I thought, okay, well, that's kind of ballsy, but we don't have a Aubameyang, so okay, whatever. And then after he scored, he took 2 seconds to celebrate it. And he was rounding up the troops, we're out of time. We need to go again, getting everybody reset. He just came back from 367 days or something of injury, and he scored in his first match. He scores, and he doesn't allow himself the time. And I love the leadership in that, and I thought it was a great showing from him. Obviously, I was very excited for him. So as much as that goal from Martinelli is going to be iconic from here on out, but I would probably say Bellerin.
And he got it from the official man of the match. I believe I remember seeing it handed to him by Xhaka.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I paid no attention to that. So,
Fredo, your man of the match.
Actually, I was going to say who Russ just pointed out, Saka.
Yeah.
You're talking about a a kid who's not playing in his position, who was being charged at by the likes of Willian and Abraham and all of the attackers that Chelsea can throw at him, and he did not put a foot wrong. And I love the fact that if you look on the left side, we have a left winger playing left back in Saka. We have Martinelli playing up ahead of him. And between the Sheffield match and this match against Chelsea, they look the most solid. They look like they fit.
I don't mean to take away from your comments because you're absolutely right, but Andy and I both wanted to put this up so bad that he's hitting it, and then I'm unhitting it, and he's hitting it, and then I'm unhitting it. Yes, we decided we had to spruce this up a little bit. So, Fredo, we're so glad that you logged in. I'm going to go for man of the match. I'm going to go with Martinelli just so that the four of us all have somebody different, which is a statement on the game. And you could have said Leno as well yesterday. Yeah. So, I mean, it's crazy that we're not sitting here talking about like a 6-1 win or something like that. But, this is probably the best I've felt after a game and in just individuals on the team and the team in general. So,
Mike, I just want to say one thing about Leno is so the last time we played Chelsea, he made that massive mistake. And I think specifically to today's Arsenal, like social media and how we just jump on the players, I think there was a collective that really sucks for the guy because he's kept us in so many games. And as Tiffany said, when you can say he's not our man of the match, it's a positive, right? Or something like that. So like that's where I want to see a lot of our players get, specifically Xhaka, where if a mistake does happen, you think to yourself, fuck, that's a one-off, and he's done so much more for the club on the pitch. And so that's where we should be as a fan base, is thinking of all these positives, right? Because we know Bellerin's going to make mistakes. We know Saka will eventually make mistakes. But credit to this guy for being with us at
I put him in timeout as well for a little while.
Hey, let's assume it's 11:55 on Rittingham. Let's assume he's awake. But Tammy, why don't you come back in a couple weeks after we lose to Liverpool, and you're on that bandwagon, and you can then give
also,
us
also, we're the fourth biggest club because you're forgetting about Sutton United. Yeah. All
right, Andy, right quick, can I just ask you, who would you rather have, Leno or Kepa?
Oh, dude. Kepa faced 2 shots yesterday and 2 goals went in. He is an awful, awful keeper. I've been saying it from day one, and Mike knows that I have a soft spot, obviously, for the keepers. But in my opinion, Leno is top 3 in the Premier League. I think you have Alisson, and then you've got dude up at why can't I think of his name? Up at City.
Ederson.
Yeah.
Okay. Ederson.
Yeah, so in my opinion, Leno easily slots in there, and I think that he would give both of those guys a run for their money. And I cannot wait for us to put a defense in front of Leno where we don't have to rely on him as much, and he just gets to sit back and he gets to kind of orchestrate this team because he's a hell of a keeper. And if those rumors about Bayern Munich are true, then we are going to be – I would be nervous.
Well, I'm nervous we're not going to get to the next segment because I want to make sure we do this and have time for everybody who's got to cut out. The second reason we asked the two of you on today, the first.
Oh, I'm not leaving, by the way.
Oh, okay. Well, then I can relax. Dandy, go back to what you were saying.
Well, don't relax because I got to leave. So fucking hurry up.
All right. It's that time of year again, mofos. It's the lead up to the #1 Arsenal supporter gathering in the history of football and human beings. And I am one that's not prone for hyperbole. But it happens every year. It gets better and better. Andy's already started yawning because he's voluntarily sitting this one out for the 7th straight year. But it's Gooner Gras season, everybody. And there's no one better to talk about Gooner Gras than 2 people who put a ton of time and effort into volunteering, the key word being volunteering, to make the event as fun as it is. So,
her, mostly on Tiffany.
Oh, were you trying to point the direction?
Yeah, I was
like the Tiffany. Brady Bunch, trying to.
Right, there we go. That's it. Mostly her.
Excellent. Look, can we make? Let's see who ends up big and I'm trying to change the screen around. Oh no, that's not what we want.
It's gonna be Mike.
That's not what we want. Anyway,
I think it's because you're talking. Tiffany, say something.
Me? Oh no, it's not changing anything.
No, not anymore.
Okay.
God damn it.
Well, let's not change it. Oh.
You just changed it.
Yeah, no. Okay, no, Andy's changing it now. All right, so This is the part where we all get nauseous. Tiffany, tell us about this year's event. It's the 7th annual event. There's a theme, a schedule. Give our users everything they need to hurry up, and if they're not already coming, get their asses to New Orleans and be part of it. And most importantly, answer the question of which is better, Gooner Gras or swimming with fucking dolphins?
Gooner Gras.
That's what I think.
That's what you had? That was your question.
That's what I mean, yeah, but Andy, what are you gonna be doing in a couple of weeks?
Swimming with dolphins?
Yeah, but Mike, we like Fredo knows this because I say it all the time, but I'm not allowed to go because you said once that I steal your thunder and that you have to be center of attention. And anyone who's met you knows that I would never make something like that up. So
never.
The whole Bassett thing is turning around on you, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. All right. So sorry, Tiff. May I call you Tiff? Because I've been doing it for the last 4 years.
I think we're good.
Okay, cool.
So Gooner Gras.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
All right. So Gooner Gras was started 7 years ago by a couple guys here who put out the word to see if people wanted to come to New Orleans and have some drinks with them and maybe go to a Mardi Gras parade, right? And I think something like 20 people showed up, 30 people showed up, if even that many. And then ever since then, it's something that we've done annually, and it's gotten progressively larger and more organized and has grown to include a full schedule of events for the whole weekend. So we have Thursday through Sunday, and it's a huge gathering, February 6th through the 9th, huge gathering of Arsenal supporters. We do, well, this year, God help me, we are doing our first night on Bourbon Street. Ordinarily, that's sort of a soft opening where we, just have like some drinks and give people their shirts that come with their registration and sort of get to know who's coming into town. And, it's not always everybody that can arrive on Thursday, but we found that everybody was going to Bourbon Street in their time off, and we wanted to liven up Thursday a bit more. So now we're all going.
Yeah, that's going to be...
Yeah, we may not get a few back.
Fredo's going to be rolling around in a wheelchair on Thursday night. We're going to put the wheelchair on the bull, on the mechanical bull. It's going to be great.
And then Friday night is our big charity night. We have a huge raffle table that we set up that benefits. We pick something each year, so it's been a scholarship fund for a local youth soccer organization. And then this year, we are providing equipment for a middle school team, and then the remainder will go to St. Baldrick's for research for pediatric cancer. So I thought Mike might like the cancer research tie-in there.
I do, and I love that when Gooner events start to get large enough, whether it's the tour or whether it's something like Gooner Gras, where there really is a lot of participation involved. Mm-hmm. The first thing that happens is charities are involved. So it's just, I guess it just makes you feel a lot better about lying on the ground in the middle of a city in the pool of your own vomit, surrounded by Gooners, when you're doing that for charity.
Right. We also, on that night, crowned...
I just gave away my schedule.
You're just horrible.
Yeah.
That sounds terrible. Please don't puke on the street.
Oh, I don't do that.
You would not be the first. Or last, but
I actually name everyone that did that last year, but I'm not going to do that on the
probably
podcast.
Could too, but I won't.
No, they will hate you.
So then Friday night, we also every year crown a king and queen of Gooner Gras, which is really, really fun. And then that person gets to reign on social media and in life as the king and queen for the next year.
When are you guys going to be eligible for that?
We are not. So it's never a local. This is our opportunity to recognize people who come see us every year and, who spread the word about Gooner Gras. And it's gotten more and more difficult, honestly, to select the king and queen because we have so many amazing people who come each year. And because we go through these argument phases of who is going to be king and queen over and over, we end up with a ballot. And then it's we secretly vote, and only the president and vice president of Crew of Arsenal know who it is until they're crowned.
Now, what happens if the king and the queen have a son and a daughter, and they decide they don't want to be in the Arsenal crew of Arsenal king and queen thing anymore, and they just want to move to Canada and be financially independent?
They just can't use the title anymore.
Yeah,
they lose their title.
That would be a shame.
Yeah, I know.
That would be a shame, because then you'd have Piers Morgan bitching about you.
It's true. I think I've blocked him from everything, so that doesn't even come up in my life. Yeah. Like, there's no Piers Morgan in my life at all.
This is a good question, Tiff, and not to interrupt the schedule, but there, out of the 7, this is going to be now the 3rd time.
I beg your pardon. There is football that weekend.
Yes, yeah. And this is what I was prompting you. There is no.
There's a North London derby that weekend, sir.
Yes.
The women play
on the road from New York
morning.
to Syracuse. Yeah. So Sunday morning.
Sunday morning, the women play Tottenham it'll be 8:00 in the morning local time. Yeah.
After Saturday.
After Saturday. So we were building up to that. So Saturday is we do that's where the huge photo has always come from, and then we do a parade watching huge party at BB King's with a balcony over the Mardi Gras parade and all sorts of shenanigans. It's a very fun night.
There's lots of community. It's just not necessarily from BB King's. It's usually down on the street.
It's a lot. Well, that parade is a ruckus.
Yeah, Fredo is known for its stuff. I mean, you've seen it now. How many years, Mike? You've seen the costumes.
Yeah, this will be my 4th, and then next year I'm participating in it.
Fredo, what was their theme this year?
Oh God! Oh no, it's Erection 2020.
There you go.
Erection
2020.
Yeah, it's always.
So you can only imagine the floats for this one.
I'm surprised they haven't done something impeachment related.
Give them a chance.
Yeah, well,
that's not to say that won't be part of this parade as well.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's an amazing time. The biggest compliment is that people come back every single year. They're bummed when they have to miss a year. So we know that we've made something really special, and it takes a whole lot of work. And we work on it all year round. And then, it's a huge shebang when you guys are here. So
and
it's a lot of fun.
Anything Arsenal related that I can bring my wife to and she enjoys is always a plus, although she can't make it this year. So it'll be single mic. No, I don't mean it like that. No.
No, you're not single. You're with Joey.
That's true. I am.
Speaking of, if I didn't mention on the site or in person, or if I haven't screamed it at you yet, it's BYOB. So if you're going to fuck up, bring your own bail.
Yeah, exactly. Bring your own.
I'm not coming down there with a credit card to get your ass out of central lockup.
So,
no, but it's so much fun, and it comes from the heart with the charity events that we throw, and we have a really close local crew here, so we just love having everybody sort of come into the fold and enjoy Mardi Gras and see our city, and it's nice. I think we wouldn't be half the event that we are potentially if it weren't for New Orleans. So, it's
not a bad place to host
it's not a bad place to host
a weekend of debauchery, but no one debauches better than Gooners. And
it's for me, in doing events on the road and in doing events at home, it's certainly a lot easier, but it also really infiltrates your life. So it's a big part of what we do all the time. And we're very excited when the weekend finally gets here and we can do this. But if you are interested in coming, I should say that you need to register immediately, because you don't want to miss those shirts. They are phenomenal.
Awesome.
Is Roadcastle on the shirt?
Yes. So we have a local guy, Stephen Fahili, who's done the art for us for the last few years. And we've had some fantastic shirts. He started in year 5, so 5, 6, and 7. The art has been from him. And this year we started going, there was a new Star Wars film coming out. We're a bunch of nerds too. And we started thinking about how we could incorporate these things. And of course I, photoshopped around and changed a BB-8 into a GG-7. And we did some fun little stupid things like that. And then we gave this to Steven, and he loves Star Wars. He's done some incredible artwork from that before. And so when we told him what the theme was, he really kind of flipped out, and then really flipped out at the daunting task of taking this old symmetry from a Star Wars poster and placing our people into it. And he just did the best job. I mean, Rocky being so, front and center. Such a
number 7 theme.
Yeah. Such a huge thing to me. Yeah. It's the number 7 themes. We've got Pires. We've got Vanda Dunk is in there, so it's just a really special shirt and we're very excited for it. And so what I was going to say about that is that we are nearly sold out on the shirts. So if you're considering coming and you just thought I would wait until the week of to register, and by the way, you do need to register because there's door lists at each place, and this is something that we pay the venue fees and all of this good stuff. So it's not a walk-up event, although if you're here and you find out about it and you want to come, we can certainly make arrangements for you to register with us. But
one to them, 2 to me.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So it's www.goonergras.com, and you'll find the itinerary, bunch of photos for the last few years, a bunch of things to do in the city. We've got hotel blocks on there, and a bit more about us and about the event as well.
Well, and I can tell you, it's the first year I was planning on going down there, we had a huge blizzard here in DC. We lost, 3 feet of snow, lost power. My family was like, "You're not going anywhere," and so I missed it. I won't miss one again. It's such a good time. People come from not just the region, not just the country, but we routinely have probably 5 or 10% people coming from overseas for that event. There's usually at least 5 to 10 that are coming from Europe or Zimbabwe or Mozambique. But it's just the most fun, whether there's a game or not. Sometimes the game just kind of takes away from it because everyone's signed over. It's just all about
that's part of it, is that you forget, especially people in England forget that the matches here are not night matches. They're not afternoon matches. They can be, we've had matches at 6:00 in the morning for Gooner Gras before, and that's rough. Especially because most of those people haven't gone to sleep yet. So nothing really makes sense. But there's a lot of different things to do, and the match is a nice bonus when it works out, but we've never fallen short of a good time.
Last year's match was a Thursday match that we lost against Bate. So it's not all it's cracked up to be.
Right.
Other than
is there a way to put the web address on the screen?
That's a great idea. And if you want to register or just find out about it or follow it for next year, it's Gooner Gras, which is the New Orleans pronunciation.com. You can follow on Twitter as well. There's not a Twitter address specifically for Gooner Gras, but for the crew of Arsenal, correct?
Yeah.
So where would we go for that on Twitter?
That's NOLA_Gooners.
Okay.
So NOLA_Gooners. That's the crew of Arsenal. And we usually like to keep people updated as to not just Gooner Gras, but whenever there's a match and the times. And we usually meet at Finn McCool, so to watch the matches. But we like to let people know, okay, this is where we're going to be at. This we're going to get together to watch the game, and kind of any information and whatnot.
Well, it's a good time. I'm sure we'll have some content that emanates from there during the weekend. We'll see how that goes. And check it out. It's just a good time, and it's a reminder, as I like to say, and I said about the summer as well. Being a Gooner, being Arsenal isn't just about those 90 minutes. It's about the pub before the game, the pub after the game, and just these kinds of weekends where you just relax with family that you've never met before, and in some cases where you have. So. We have a question from Mark from Wisconsin, who's in the chat. He was on at least I think a couple of stops on the tour this summer, and he's making it to Gooner Gras this year. Mark from Wisconsin, founding member of the Green Bay Armory, which is probably the nearest or most recent Arsenal supporters club. Last week he said, "I'm listening to the pod while cooking dinner. Question for the next pod: what advice do you have for a first-time Gooner Gras attendee? How should I prep my liver?" Any suggestions?
Yes, I would say hydrate in the week before. These are very serious mom tips here. Hydrate in the week before, and do not forget to eat the entire time that you're in a city of food. It shouldn't be a problem, but you keep drinking and you forget to eat. And then I would also say, obviously, remember that it's a full weekend. It's a marathon, not a sprint, as they say. And everybody who has attempted to take this weekend in a sprint has blacked out at some point. So
yes, there were people getting carried out of bars last year. There's people who, 2 days goes by and you realize you hadn't seen them since the first night, Joey Murphy. Not going to name names though, but yeah, it is a
sometimes
marathon.
You find out that they drove all the way back to Texas in the middle of the night.
I got one guess who that is. So yeah, it's a fun time. As far as prepping your liver, and you were cooking dinner and prepping liver, this is a very food themed question. I recommend one of three things: rhythm method, Kegels, and maybe a little bit of sprinkle in some perineal exercises. And
shit! No, we should absolutely warn them that there are many Gooner Gras babies.
Yes,
including from George from Boston, and he was our king, to be fair, so he got anything he wanted.
Did that actually happen? Is that 9 months after Gooner Gras they had the kid?
Yeah.
Oh God, damn, that's funny.
Yeah,
that's funny. All right, so
he's not the only one.
Well, I can't wait to see what happens.
Joey Murphy says his tip is don't die.
Yeah, I'm gonna get a call 9 months after Gooner Gras. I'm gonna have some big problems, but Joey's pregnant. All right. I was going to talk about Liverpool and how they're going to obviously do it, and I just don't want to talk about that anymore because it's depressing. They're good. So let's go to the rest of the user questions, and then we'll wrap up. We have a new segment to the show within the user questions. It's called The French Love Mike and Andy. The other name we considered is Voulez-vous coucher avec moi ce soir, but it's appropriate when we have two people from the Cajun kind of Frenchish area of New Orleans on. But we got two questions, both from Gooners of French descent, independent of each other, about the same topic. So the first from at French Gooner 23, who is a self-described Frenchman living in the UK. How big a release clause should we put in the forthcoming contract being placed in front of Martinelli? And the second and connected question from Sebi, a bald Frenchman who wears berets around New York City and has a son named Bernard. How many euros, pounds, yens, dollars, or clams do you think Barca will eventually offer Arsenal for Martinelli in 2 years' time? So, Andy, I'm going to go to you first. You can answer one or the other or the combination. But, I mean, I guess the point is, what's he worth? After 4 games with the Arsenal.
Yeah, that's it, right?
Cart before the horse here.
Yeah, I mean, all right, listen.
I didn't ask the question.
If you're going to say right now, I think he's worth market value. You look at, how old was Harry Maguire and Wan-Bissaka when they left, and what have they done? So probably 70 or 80. If he continues on this trajectory, and we're talking about this next year, this time, I would say probably 150.
But your release clause wouldn't be 70 or 80. Your
release clause would probably still be 150.
All right.
There's a reason that you have it, is because they have to release it. Hey, I need to bounce. I'm gonna let the three of you carry this. Mike doesn't check his text during the thing. So.
I'm focused on the quality of the show. Sorry about that. Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot.
There's a whole fucking you ass clown. I hate you. That's really. All right, so I'll be posting that to Twitter later. Thanks, Andy, for joining us. Feel better.
I'm just gonna.
Bye, Andy.
Bye. You know what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna stop my mic and cam so I don't stop the broadcast. Yeah. Thank you guys for being on. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Andy.
Have fun in Gooner Gras. I'll just be hanging out.
Swimming with dolphins.
Hanging with dolphins. Hanging with Flipper.
Right.
All right, so almost done here. I think they probably offer us £8 million, and knowing Arsenal, we take it for some reason. But that's more of a statement on us than on Martinelli. What would you? Just because we're talking about something that's unrealistic at this point, Fredo, what kind of price tag would you put on it?
Right now, I mean, okay, I would say I would put like a £50 million price tag on him. Except if you're Barcelona, it's £100 million.
Yeah, you can
whatever PSG spent on Mbappe, I want them to break it or something like that.
I mean, look, why not? I mean, that pretty much says we want to keep him. But look, if you're gonna give us a the ability to buy 29 new players by selling one 18-year-old, then I guess we'll do it.
And we have precedent. I mean, last teenager we sold to a Spanish giant was Nicolas Anelka, and that built London Colney.
Well, that's true. And then we sold a teenager to what was it, Hamburg? Would we sell Serge Gnabry to? And we got a crunchy bar in return.
Basically.
Tiffany, any more? I mean, this is the last time we're going to mention Martinelli on the podcast. So
yeah, I mean, I'm still like 4 matches in. I don't feel confident putting a number on anything right now, and it's a little bit hard too to say like, well, yeah, there's certain players that we could get rid of or offload, and then use that money to buy other people, but then we don't have that person. And if he is going to develop into something fantastic, then why let him go in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, the argument could be made, I suppose, that our habit is to just completely blow the sellable window, Wilshere, Ramsey, for one reason or another, and end up letting these players go for almost nothing, and at low points. And whereas you see clubs like Dortmund, Ajax, who just continue.
Okay, but so if we're going to say that he's worth that to sell him, then fucking pay him, keep him.
Yeah, well, I don't disagree with that. I do think to really get to the level that a Liverpool are at, and I'm not promoting the sale of Martinelli, no way, but I'm just saying we might need to cash out on some players that we would love to see develop if someone's willing to pay stupid money for them, like other teams have done, who just keep reloading. And it's going to be tough to figure out where those things come from. We've talked about that. If PSG wants to come in for Guendouzi and they're willing to pay silly money, I think a lot more people would say take it now than would have at the beginning of the season. But those are some tough decisions that I guess we got to make if we're not just going to continue to dip into
Mike, how quickly do you think we offer Martinelli a new contract? Do you think we'll offer him one before the end of the year? Or do you think we'll wait another year?
I think it should happen over the summer.
Okay.
I don't think you should start next year without some sort of new contract. You got to lock these guys down, and I'd say the same thing about probably about Saka. But another user question we had 2 more from Justin Trujillo. Which of Bellerin or Xhaka had the better redemption story between the two? I think they're
yikes. I mean, I have to give that to Bellerin. I have to give that to Bellerin. That was, the length of rehab and coming back as strong as he did, not just scoring a goal or playing well, but, with being captain and really communicating with the rest of the team and pushing them forward when there wasn't a lot of time left. Like to me, that was really, really good to see. I'm happy for Xhaka. I think Xhaka's still climbing. That was a start.
Well, here's the question. What happens when what's going to happen when Xhaka commits an error or a mistake that leads to a goal? Because that's been, Xhaka's talented. He's extremely talented, but he has that one mistake in him every now and again. So the next time it happens, does he get booed by the fans?
I don't think that's the problem, though. I don't okay, he gets booed. All of them get booed. That's fine. Right. It's how he handles it. It's how he manages the stress and how, the backlash. And hopefully he's since October gotten some help with that.
Mm-hmm. But that's what I mean. It's going to be an interesting dynamic when that happens, how he reacts, how the supporters react. Because if everybody kind of goes, okay, it's a mistake, we move on, it'll show you that people have kind of grown past what happened at Palace.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, no, that's all good points. I'm just excited to see Bellerin back playing 90 minutes. I was surprised that he had the Aardman just because I wouldn't have thought that he would have had fitness to play the whole game. And not only did he play the whole game, he scored the salvaging goal in the 87th minute. So
as far as everybody saying, what a massive match for us that was, and it absolutely was. Especially in terms of comeback and it being, 2 shots on goal and 2 goals, that's insane. That doesn't happen. But also it's fucking Chelsea, I hate Tottenham with the rest of them, but I fucking loathe Chelsea. I have a hard time even stomaching those matches at all. And it's one of those things where, you know, the anxiety that people get for certain teams is fine, but for me, it's that one. And so for, you know, us to walk away from a draw in their stadium was.
And is a big game player. I mean, another defender who didn't score very often. Unfortunately, you know, the end of his Arsenal career wasn't what you wanted it to be. But Laurent Koscielny seemingly would score goals at the most important times in the biggest games. And Bellerin is kind of starting on that path as well. He's not a goal scorer, but he creates, and he, you know, he's off to a pretty good track record of performing against big teams, unlike some other players that we have. So I
think we've talked a lot about the players, and, you know, obviously not spent a lot of time on Arteta. And I'm sure, I mean, obviously I listened to your podcast. You guys have covered it quite a bit, but I think that the direction is clear, and obviously he's challenging these guys. You know, he's set some boundaries and some, you know, this is what I expect and this is what you're going to give. And they're, you know, perking up. They're definitely developing under that, even just in, you know, the minimal amount of matches that we've had. You know, it's something's different. And I think we really under previous management really wanted to see changes, right? Like we wanted to think that things were different in certain circumstances, especially for the 18 months before that. But we just, if we were honest with ourselves, we weren't fucking seeing it. It was going further and further down. And then the morale was breaking down. And then they're saying, well, it's because of the fans. And, you know, well, go fuck yourself, right? So
yeah, you don't want to hear that.
It was so negative on all sides. And so even this month of like having Arteta and, you know, playing as hard as they can and knowing what they're doing and showing more technical skill, I think it's just been such a relief, honestly. Like, you don't want to place too much pressure on it already, right? Like, we're not going to win the league right now, but
it's
it feels better.
So headed in the right direction. It feels better. It felt better in the Emirates a couple of weeks ago. Can't wait to get back there in March now. I mean, look, we're not going to more than likely win anything this season of note. I mean, Europa League's still a possibility, FA Cup still, but I can't wait to go there in March and go home and away, because I just know that even if the games and the results aren't necessarily completely turned around into this unbelievable streak that we, would hope to see, all the little things around the club, from the fan relationship with the players, from the face, the body language, to the teamwork, to the way that they're, looking at playing for their coach. It's all kind of starting to cycle around in a positive way. And I hope that continues. And you do have to, and I'm glad you did, Tiffany, you have to really credit that to the one person who I think is setting the tone for that. And that's Mikel Arteta right now.
Well, and we've seen him play, right? Like, there was never a question. He's one of those people who the entire time that he was on the pitch when he was playing for us was the most focused person out there. Like, there was no distracting him, whether it be a good day or a bad day. He was driven the entire time. And I think, having trained under Pep for so long and then sort of coming back in and still having that drive and that motivation, and being able to not just have that himself, but to show other players how to have that, is so massive to me, because there's a lot of times that people are technically intelligent about football, but they can't fucking deliver the instruction. And it shows. And I feel like that's where we're starting to see a turnaround. It seems like in whatever way he's saying it, and I think I have some idea just from his interviews, he's deliberate with his words. He's definitely breaking it down in ways that make sense. And if he doesn't have an answer, he doesn't fucking answer. He's not going to blow smoke up your ass.
And not in a robotic way at all. He's not couching his words and so that they are taken specifically. He's just genuine. And it's not always the most talented players, like you said. It's the players who have the heart, who have the discipline, and can impart that on other people, which is why Michael Jordan is an awful basketball executive, which is why, Thierry Henry, the jury's still out on his ability to be a coach. Zidane seemed to have done okay, but who knows in that environment where you have all those players of Galactico playing for you. So, yeah.
I think that one skill in an industry does not necessarily mean that you can run the show.
No.
Yeah. And I think a lot of us hopefully will be properly whelmed rather than underwhelmed by the hire of Arteta. That's about all we have for today. I do want to make a quick, not a plug, but a request. If there's anybody with access to away tickets, and I have a couple connections, but some of these are pretty hard. Any listeners out there who have access specifically for the Brighton and the Southampton away matches in March, get in touch with us because we got a group, and we may not have all the availability that we usually are able to get. So we're looking for some. If you can get in touch with us at the Gooners Pod, or just reach out on Twitter, email at gooners@thegoonerspod.com. Please let us know. So hopefully we can get sorted. And that's about it. Anything, Fredo, let's plug that podcast again so that, because when you get the Gooners podcast bump, you go from 3 listeners to 4. And,
hey, I know.
Oh, so then we get the bump for it at Gooner Gras too, right?
Exactly.
Yes,
obviously, our event's going to completely blow up once you guys have done a podcast from here.
I know at least 2 people who are coming specifically just for mostly because Andy's not coming. But yeah, I mean, did we get double the enrollments this year? With me sending out 1 tweet? Probably not.
Probably.
What's the podcast?
Oh.
How can we watch it? Listen to it.
Listen, it's the Huda Jedi podcast. It's on iTunes. It's on Podbean. There's a Twitter account. There's a Facebook group. So you can find it all the normal places.
On Prodigy and MySpace. Can we listen to it by email, by fax? Can you fax your podcast?
I will text you a podcast.
I appreciate that. And Tiffany, of course. Let's try to put that back on the screen again. If you can't make it this year, everyone's like, "Oh, I'm going to have to do that sometime," and then, "Oh, it looked like a greatest time," and then, December and January roll around where it's being promoted the most, and they're like, "Oh, I'll do it again next year." Tell us why that needs to just stop, and you just need to come for this thing already.
I mean, look, I'm partial to this city. Obviously, I live here, but New Orleans is a really special place, and I think it's something that you have to experience for yourself. It's it's a lot like for all of us finally making it to London to see a match, right? And then all of a sudden we have all these people from London who are coming here to see Gooner Gras because the fan experience is so much different when you're literally in another country. So it's you don't have to drink enough to come to Gooner Gras. We do have some people who don't heavily buy, but when I say BYOB, it's only because, we lose people sometimes.
So when people do drink, they drink.
Yeah. Yeah. And, Gooners have a reputation, and it's up to,
I think all, football supporters have a reputation, and obviously every event that we host is in a brewery or some kind of club, or we're not going to host
Street.
Not this time, Mark. But it's, it's a lot of fun. And like I said, people who do come and see us, not a lot of them have only come one time. Most of them have come multiple times. So it's,
And you were worried about giving me material to get perverted about. You should watch what you say.
Yeah.
I'll let that one slide by. So it's late at night for those. I appreciate those of you who are over across the pond who have tuned in. Danny just got here, although he just wakes up for the morning at around 12:30. And to everyone else, thank you, Don Juan, for your kind words. And it's been a fun one. I'm looking forward to seeing how we do in the FA Cup next week. We'll be back on after that game, I'm sure, and then see what happens around Gooner Gras time. Anything else you guys want to get out there in the universe? No? Well, then we'll end here. Thanks, Tiffany, for joining.
Wait, can I say one thing? I will say, if you're looking for events, whether you can come to Gooner Gras in February or not, as the events board member for Arsenal America, have to also say that you should check the website and keep an eye on the branch pages on Facebook, because there are year-round some really incredible events. And Arsenal America is also your
Twitter.
link for any summer tour items that, if the team come back over, if they come over again this summer, this is how you get informed and get involved with those events.
Yeah, and if you're from the States and you're part of Arsenal America, it can help you with ticketing when you go over. And I mean, we just have great people in Arsenal America. Tiffany on events, Andrew with ticketing, David, who's been on the podcast many times. There's so many more. Brandon Johnson. The people who do volunteer work for Arsenal America and for these events are some of the best people I've met. So giving of their time, and the one thing we all have in common that is the only reason that we know each other is the Arsenal, and that's what makes it fun. So thank you for everything you do, Tiffany. Thank you, Fredo, for whatever it is that you do.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next
He
week.
does a lot.
I get it. He can take it. All right. Come on, you guys.
Hey.